in this video pretty much 3 things that you need to stop buying from the grocery store, and there's reasons behind it. And I understand that the price tag is probably more accessible than getting at a farm, but the effect and the things that happen when you end up buying things from a farm, or actually knowing where the source is when it comes to the food that you're ingesting, it's pretty much worlds over completely different than what you're getting at a supermarket. You have to understand that in a supermarket, they are mass producing things, and in order to keep up with that, in order to make more money, just like if you started a business, you have to cut ins and outs in order to make the most profit on what you're doing. And having a holistic, natural environment for a lot of the foods that you eat is really tough to maximize profit for the amount that they distribute. Now, all of us in this day and age, unless you grow your own food and, natural cattle and all that, I understand you're going to have some certain things. Like, I still shop at Whole Foods to get vegetables. I get organic completely, but, the fact is, and unless you find a market for that as well, it's hard to continually go to these. But there's certain things that you need to probably limit that you get from the supermarket, because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they are just not right. And like I said, you get what you pay for. So the first thing is going to be eggs. And I would highly recommend, I put it as the first one, but I think this is probably one of the most important ones, because we all buy eggs. But in my instance, I used to get the highest quality eggs at the supermarket, Vital Farms. That's what I think is the most expensive one. We typically go for that, just the most expensive, because we think that's better. They did studies on Vital Farms, and a lot of them have the nitrates and things that are similar to the cheap Eggland's Best, name brand $6 a 24-pack eggs. So the problem with that is that you are not getting natural eggs. And there's one thing that I noticed immediately when I started getting farm eggs is the difference in texture. I usually do hard-boiled eggs. That's how I eat my eggs. And we'll get into what they do in order to get them on the shelves, because there's actual regulations in order for them to get on the shelves, which are not necessarily good for you. But the one thing that I want to reiterate with the eggs is make hard-boiled eggs. And a lot of the time when you get these types of eggs from the supermarket, they're very easy to peel. And the example I'm giving you is, to me, it was like mind-shattering, is the ones from the supermarket are so easy to peel the shell off. You basically hard boil it and put in ice water, and boom, you're good to go. What I noticed was the ones from the farm, it's very hard to get the shell off completely clean without ripping some of the skin off. And the reason behind that is, and it hit me when I ended up buying regular eggs again just to test it out, is they're like basketballs when you hard boil the supermarket eggs, whereas the skins or the white on the eggs that you buy from a farm, the texture is very soft. It's not hard. Everything on the egg is very soft, no matter how much you cook it for. I cooked it for about 10 minutes. And the reason behind that is, number one, what they're cleaning it with, and number two, the amount of nutrients and what the chickens are eating. They say pasture raised, but that could even mean that they're in a farm, and then there's maybe a foot of land that they let them out once a day, almost like a jail. Like they let them out once a day for 1 hour, and they maybe walk around for like 2 seconds, and then go right back into the farm, eat the vegetarian feed, and we'll get into that as well, and then produce the eggs that you get on the shelf. And that's why they're so bouncy. The regulation for eggs, for U.S. eggs, typically is to clean them with chlorine first before they go into the packaging. And it's such a misnomer, because they say to clean it with chlorine. And what you're actually doing, what chlorine actually is bleach. And I want you to test, or maybe actually don't test. That might not be the best idea, but putting bleach on anything is going to stain it. It's going to completely soak right into it, and going to change the color of it, typically to white. Your eggs are being cleaned with chlorine before they are packaged, no matter what. And people may say there's a shell on them, they don't absorb anything. The egg in the chicken absorbs all the nutrients from the chicken in order to become the chicken that it will be. So it is absorbing the chlorine and the bleach that they put it in, and you're ingesting that. And in my honest eyes, I haven't done a whole bunch of research on it, but to me, I feel like that's one of the main reasons why they are like basketballs when you hard boil them, because they have been intaking chlorine. Even if it's for a second, you still have that on there while they're in the package. And I mean, I think all of us know, you ingest any sort of bleach, it's going to cause problems. You're typically ingesting the chemicals from bleach when you're eating some of these eggs, and they put all these labels on them like pasture raised or, vegetarian feed. All that means is that there is an option to let them out for a second, and the vegetarian feed just means that it's all vegetarian, so they can put whatever's in there as long as it's vegetarian feed. It's not the horrible, putting chemicals and steroids in there, but it's still not great food. And the reason behind that is because a lot of that vegetarian has, pesticides and all sorts of things that can cause problems. The next thing that I think is most important is red meat. You typically want to get, and you got to see this on the label, and you'll notice that pretty much, if not all of the supermarket's food it has to be grass-fed and grass finished with zero vegetarian feed with these cows. The reason behind that, and it kind of goes twofold for chickens, is because a lot of this feed is typically not good for the animal itself. I'm going to read you. This article is going to talk about pretty much what corn feed or vegetarian feed does to the animal. So technically, corn is higher in sugar and starch, so bacteria in the animal's gut ferment very rapidly, what this ends up doing is causing a drop in the pH level because their digestive tract is very acidic. And what can end up happening because they're so acidic is they end up getting sick, causing bloating, diarrhea, and all of these different things that can end up being fatal, which this is being fed to the chickens, to the cows. And you got to consider, you are eating the animal, which means that you are eating all of the things that the animal processed. If you're feeding it vegetarian feed, even if you fed it grass in the beginning, you finish it out with vegetarian feed and all of the corn feeds, soy feeds, all of that, you are still, no matter how organic it is, you're causing them to have acidic digestive tract and making these cows sick. And then that's what they're giving you. So it doesn't really matter if half of it was fed grass, because towards the end, they feed it vegetarian feed. And that ends up making the cows or the chickens sick. A lot of the time with this vegetarian feed, they're trying to rapidly produce these animals. So even chickens, I was talking with the farmer at my farm. Typically, they take around 8 months to get to full size, whereas the ones that you're buying in the supermarket, no matter what you're getting, typically take around 4 months to get to full size, which is because of all the ingredients in the food. And these animals are not supposed to eat corn and soy. They're supposed to eat fruits. They're supposed to eat worms. They're supposed to eat grass. They're supposed to eat the food that comes out of the earth. And if you're feeding it something that it's not supposed to eat, it's going to get sick. And that's what you're ingesting. Even when it says grass-fed organic beef, all that means is, in the beginning, they ate grass, and then towards the end, it was organic corn and soy feed that they continually processed. And we don't even know how long that they ended up eating that for. It could be the first 2 weeks of their life they ate grass, and then the rest of it was just vegetarian feed. The labels on a lot of these things are very, very misleading, and that's another thing with red meat. And the last thing I would suggest, making these things yourself, is going to be pickling and fermented foods. A lot of the time we end up going to the supermarket, and these foods are astronomical in price. I know pickles are probably like $9, and the thing is, they're okay, but when you naturally ferment things, and they're very simple, you will be able to get the maximum amount of benefits that most of the time when you're going to the store, typically things are adding vinegars and even though it's not a bad thing, they're not naturally fermenting the food. They're getting you the flavor of what a fermented food would be. And Lord knows, I think if you don't understand this, when you're getting the cheap pickles and you're getting the yellow dyes and all of that stuff, that's horrible for you. Typically, you're getting a flavoring of pickling instead of getting what it actually is. And the reality is, it's so simple to actually do these things where you just take salt, water, let these things ferment for, a couple of days, put dill, and the flavor is way better. And on top of that, there's so many probiotics and prebiotics that you need to function, and it's going to make you feel better. A lot of the time, you're paying all this money for something at a store. It's not fully fermented. There's the flavor to it, but you haven't naturally gotten that process like you would normally do if you just did it. And at the end of all this, most of the time, you pretty much need to just go to the farm for as many things as you can. But a lot of the time, the supermarket is trying to mislead you toward things that are not healthy for you and kind of label them as health foods. And I would strongly recommend these 3 things: that you end up going to a farm, meeting your local farmer, and supporting that local farmer and allowing him to be able to create natural food. Because when you eat this, you're going to start realizing how much your body needs this stuff and how little nutrients you're actually getting from the supermarket. So remember to hit that like and subscribe if you do enjoy these videos. I hope this helps. I will keep making these once a week. Love you guys all. Peace.